of Representatives votes for referral of a contempt charge.
The decay of our political institutions filtering into our educational institutions, into our workplaces, into the workplace atmosphere, where bosses, where executives, where CEOs are echoing the marching orders of these perverted political leaders. So yes, more people are awake than before, and that's a good thing. Not only is it a good thing, it's a great thing. So we are aware, we are awake, we are not woke, because woke is fake. We believe in God, we believe in country, we believe in the golden rule, treating others as we want to be treated. Hi, this is CJ with the Patriot Nation podcast, and we are reading an article from Politico.com. It's not a news source I usually read, but it has an article and a subject that I find to be very interesting. It is entitled, "Steve Bannon has been indicted for defying a January 6th committee investigation." The House referred Bannon to the Justice Department for prosecution last month after he refused to cooperate with a congressional subpoena.
Keeping our country safe requires protecting its democratic institutions, including the one we sit in today, from violent attack. As the committee is well aware, the department is engaged in one of the most sweeping investigations in its history.
The House referred Bannon to the Justice Department for prosecution last month after he refused to cooperate with a congressional subpoena. The move is a major victory for the January 6th Select Committee. It is a select committee. Matter of fact, they selected people who are Democrats, and they seemed to omit people who are Republicans or who want to also investigate what else happened during and prior to that siege on the Capitol. So I do agree with them about that. It is a select committee. It goes on to say, which it has viewed Bannon's recalcitrance as a stumbling block in their probe, encouraging other potential witnesses to stonewall investigators. Attorney General Merrik Garland said, "Since my first day in office, I have promised Justice Department employees that together we would show the American people by word and deed that the department adheres to the rule of law, follows the facts and the law, and pursues equal justice under the law." That's interesting he says that, because this is coming from the same man, the Attorney General, who has actually referred parents who speak up at school board meetings to the Justice Department to be potentially investigated as domestic terrorists. That's right, domestic terrorists. And he said he believes in the rule of law and equal justice under the law. I highly doubt that, based on his recent track record. He goes on to say, today's charges reflect the department's steadfast commitment to these principles. Bannon and his spokesman did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The indictment represents remarkably quick work by the Justice Department. How convenient. They're moving really quick this time. I wonder why. People familiar with the process of handling congressional referrals told Politico that it frequently takes months for the DOJ lawyers to make prosecution decisions. It's also a risky step, though, for prosecutors. However, as contempt of Congress charges are rarely brought and almost never lead to conviction. Well, hopefully that's the case here, but it seems like they're trying to make an example out of Bannon and pretty much anyone connected to Trump. What's even more ridiculous about this is Steve Bannon was not even in the administration at the time of January 6th. He was outside of the administration. He's running his podcast show. Matter of fact, he used to be on YouTube. They banned him. They deplatformed him there, and he went on to Rumble and a number of other platforms. And the guy was running a podcast. I don't know what they're trying to do, other than it looks to me like it's a politically motivated application of the law. It goes on to say that Bannon's case represents a particularly extreme example of defiance. He refused to even appear before investigators under subpoena. That's because he believes it's a farce. They're trying to treat this like it's a new 9/11 commission. However, there is so much more than meets the eye. For example, why aren't they investigating why the different security guards moved the barricades back and allowed protesters to march into the Capitol building? Why aren't they pursuing who Ray Epps is? Many think that Ray Epps was and is a federal agent. Ray Epps was one of the people caught on camera pointing to the Capitol saying, "The Capitol's this way. We're going to the Capitol. The Capitol is this way."
The story of the mystery man, Ray Epps, featured in Representative Massey's video above, is in fact far more shocking than even the congressman implies in the hearing. It's a story so strange and so scandalous at every turn that it threatens to shatter the entire official narrative of the Capitol breach. And still, it exposes yet another dimension of provocative federal involvement in the so-called insurrection of January 6th.
We need to go to the Capitol. Let's go! I'm going to put it out there. I'm probably going to go to jail for it. Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. Peaceful. Fed. Peacefully. Okay, folks. Number one. As soon as the president's done speaking, we go to the Capitol. The Capitol's this direction.
Why is he not being investigated now? Who shot Ashley Babbitt? Now, we supposedly know this, but why aren't we digging into this more? Is this truly a balanced and a well-packed investigative committee? It looks like not. It looks like a political wing of the Democrat Party. Anyway, the case is likely to complicate some questions about executive privilege, particularly for outside advisors. Bannon has indicated through his lawyer that he would cooperate with the January 6th committee if ordered to by a court, but the panel viewed the offer as a stall tactic that would usually tie up his potential testimony for months or even years, but then again, in this particular case, they somehow sped it up. Go figure, the Democrats sped up the process of using the nation's top law enforcement official and office to pursue political enemies of the Biden administration. That's exactly what's going on here. Goes on to say that Steve Bannon's indictment should send a clear message, and this is one of the Democrat representatives, should send a clear message to anyone who thinks they can ignore the select committee to try to stonewall our investigation. No one is above the law, he goes on to say. That is, of course, if you're a Democrat, maybe you are above the law. If you're Hunter Biden, you're above the law. For example, Joe Biden, remember he said a while ago that he did not think we should tolerate people selling and using hard drugs. He said they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Isn't it interesting that Hunter Biden was found to have been using hard drugs, and not only using hard drugs, using them on camera, but Joe Biden seems to have forgotten that approach that he had spoke about before. As they say, no one's above the law except Democrats are, in this case, above the law. He goes on to say that we will not hesitate to use the tools at our disposal to get the information that we need. And that is very interesting to see what they're trying to do at this particular point. They are using the Justice Department to try to suppress and shake up anybody related to former President Donald Trump. And so it's clear what they're trying to do. They're trying to make Trump as toxic as possible so anybody who wants to affiliate with Trump will be scared, leery, and want to distance themselves from him so he becomes a weakened potential candidate. They know that Trump is a very viable candidate for the 2024 election. Joe Biden polling very low, as well as Kamala polling even 28. She's at 28%. I think he's at about 38% or lower, 36 or something like that. So, as Joe Biden's incompetence becomes more apparent to the American public, who was hoodwinked during the last election that was really a clandestine election because he didn't have to campaign the same as he would during a normal year. So what's happening is the public is becoming more aware of his incompetence. And as we get closer, Donald Trump is going to be speaking more. He's going to be making a stronger presence. And people are going to start to see that they made the wrong decision. That is those who voted for Joe Biden. So what they're trying to do, again, is make anybody related to Trump toxic, make Trump toxic, and try to scare people from supporting President Trump. Some key House Republicans quickly closed the ranks around Bannon, with Representative Jim Jordan, Republican of Ohio, suggesting Republicans will use the precedent to set in case to demand congressional testimony from top Biden aides should they take the House. And Representative Matt Gaetz, a Republican from Florida, a frequent guest on Bannon's podcast, simply tweeted, "Stand with Bannon." The committee had taken an interest in Bannon's involvement in the D.C. war room-related attempts to overturn the election in a run-up to January 6th. So they're saying that his podcast was involved in trying to overturn the election. Absurd. This is absurd. They question the validity of the election. Doesn't mean they tried to overturn it. Again, questioning the validity of an election when you have the backdrop taking place with regards to a pandemic, massive mail-in voting, and a campaign that is extremely abnormal, where one candidate hardly shows himself, hardly speaks, and a number of people were saying this was a very odd and irregularly conducted campaign. And one of those people was Steve Bannon, so he spoke about that freely on his podcast, The War Room, and they're trying to say that now he used the War Room to overturn the election. This is a huge stretch of the truth, if not a bold-faced lie. The decay of our political institutions filtering into our educational institutions, into our workplaces, into the workplace atmosphere, where bosses, where executives, where CEOs are echoing the marching orders of these perverted political leaders. So yes, more people are awake than before, and that's a good thing. Not only is it a good thing, it's a great thing. So we are aware, we are awake, we are not woke, because woke is fake. We believe in God, we believe in country, we believe in the golden rule, treating others as we want to be treated. It'll be interesting to see what goes on next in this ongoing saga. Thank you for joining us, Patriots, for the Patriot Nation podcast. Take care, God bless. We'll see you guys next time.